So I want to welcome you all to Am I Lovable webinar. It's the second in our series for this year. And today I just want to talk about how we often feel unloved and maybe the reasons behind that and how we can overcome that and truly love who God created us to be. Can everyone see my screen, by the way? Okay. So the outline for tonight is, I've already welcomed you. I'm going to be talking a bit about the mission and vision of No One Stands Alone Foundation. And then I'll be sharing part of my story. And we'll then be talking about how we can learn to love ourselves. And there'll be an activation and then Q&A and discussion, and we'll close in prayer together. So I've had on my heart since I was 15 years old to start a nonprofit called No One Stands Alone. And the reason why I wanted to do this was through my life, I went through many, many difficulties, and I had no one I could turn to, no one I could talk to. And all the things that I experienced as a child, I was actually told I wasn't allowed to tell anyone. So I lived a life of secrecy, and I lived a life struggling alone. And it was not fun. It was very difficult. And I realized through that process that I didn't want anyone else to have to experience that as well. And so at the age of 17, God just put this on my heart, and I held it in my heart for a long time. And life happens. I got married, I had children, and it just kept getting pushed off, and I never got it started. And for many years, I felt like maybe I had missed my timing, maybe I had missed the mark. And now I realize that it's all in God's timing. And so last year, God really challenged me that now was the time. Now is the time for me to step out, for me to really put my heart out there and to offer people the opportunity to know that they're not alone, that you don't have to struggle alone. And I realized also that sometimes we struggle alone because we aren't brave enough to open up to others. We feel that they won't understand our process. They might not understand what we've gone through. And so we hide behind the pain. So I want to encourage everyone that you don't have to journey alone. Not only does God journey with you, but I want to create a community of people to journey with you. So no matter what you're going through, I want you to know you're not alone, and that God's with you and he cares about you. Excuse me. Our mission and our vision. Our mission is to offer support, resources, and opportunities to those who are struggling with mental health issues. We achieve this through mentoring, group mentoring sessions, one-on-one sessions, and offering online courses that can be done at your own pace. My biggest desire is to change the stigma associated with mental health. A lot of people deny they even struggle with mental health because there is a stigma attached to it. But I know for a lot of people in my life even that, you know, maybe they're not severely depressed, they're not bipolar, they don't have multiple personality, they don't have anxiety disorders, but they're not living a life of freedom. They're not living a life of health. And even as I read my Bible this morning or this week, I came across the word health. And as I looked in the dictionary for the definition, it talks about it being completely whole in body, soul, and spirit. And that's really my heart, is that we would not only be able to heal the wounds from the soul, but that it would trickle into every area of our life. I also believe that a lot of these things that we go through are passed down generationally. And so my goal is that if we can stop the course of these problems in your life, then we can change that for your future generations. And that's really a huge key to my vision. And another part of my vision, which I don't often share because it's quite grandiose, But when I was 20 years old, I stood on Scotchman's Hill of Calgary, Alberta, and I looked over the city and I was praying and I saw Foothills Hospital, and God said to me, one day the mental health wards will be empty. And I took that on, like that is a huge desire of my heart, that people would be free, people would know their purpose, people would know who God created them to be, and that they would be living their lives full and free, and that those hospitals would be empty. And so that's my ultimate dream. That's what I desire to work towards. And I don't know, maybe one day that will happen. And obviously it's not going to be just through me, but I hope to be part of that group, part of the people that create an environment where people find safety and find healing and can grow. A mentor is someone who walks ahead of us and tells us how they did it. A mentor is someone who walks alongside us to guide us on what we can do. So one of the main differences between what No One Stands Alone does versus other groups is I really want to focus on mentoring. And the one reason for that is because I've learned that we grow quicker and faster in community. I've had many people, I've had coaches, I've had counselors, and they have all helped to some varying degrees. But I find that if I have someone in my life who's been where I've been, who's successfully come out of it, that they can actually journey with me and they help me see it to the end. So mentorship is a process of journeying with someone who has been where you are. They have the ability to see where you are, where you need to go, and have the experience and knowledge to help you get there. Mentors can be found in every industry and for every reason imaginable. At NOSA, our mentors have once found themselves in a place where they struggled with a wide range of mental health issues. We heal, grow, and move past our current struggles faster when we do so in community. Having others who have journeyed, guide you through your own struggles has utmost value. One-on-one mentoring is when you work with a mentor one-on-one. This can be a person in person or at a distance. This is someone who you will meet with regularly. They can offer you support, tools, and knowledge of how to get where you are to where you want to be. These mentor relationships tend to create bonds that last a lifetime. Even long after your significant times of mentorship, you'll find that you seek out support or friendship from this person. So God's had me mentoring people for the past 20 years. And when I look back, I'm amazed at how God's just created just some really deep friendships. And I'm still in contact with many of these people. And it's just a blessing to me to see where they've come from and how they're growing, and they're doing the same for others. And so that's really my mission. If you know anyone who is struggling and would benefit from a mentorship relationship, have them contact me. I'd love to talk to them more about that. So that is the mission and vision of No One Stands Alone. Just one second, I have to go. So why is it so hard to love yourself? I'm not sure if this is an easy question for you or a hard question for you. I know for myself, it's quite easy to answer because through my life, I was basically told who I was. As a young girl, everywhere I went, I was told how terrible I was. Whether it was at school, I was bullied, no one liked me. I was told every day all the terrible things about me. At home, my dad was abusive and my brothers hated me. They would tell me every day how much they hated me and wished I was dead. There was really no reason in my life to find love for myself. And I don't know where you guys are in your journey. I don't know what your past has been, but I do know that there's an answer to this problem, and I hope to share that with you today. Whoa. So why do we struggle? Now, this list of reasons is obviously not expansive. There's many other reasons. And most of these reasons on here are all ones I've experienced. Rejection, abuse, abandonment. This one is a huge one for many people. It can show up in ways, for example, if you weren't wanted at birth, that's a source of abandonment. Even some people I know have been a product of failed abortions. Or even when you have a parent leave you through divorce or death, or even just an absent parent. Also, another way we struggle is failure, not measuring up. We feel like if we failed, then we define ourselves by that, or if we don't measure up to someone else's standard, we define ourselves by that. Striving is a huge one that I dealt with for most of my life. And it stems from something that I learned as a little girl, but I believed that I was the source, that I was responsible for everyone else's happiness. So I became a perfectionist people pleaser, trying to do everything in my power to please others. And obviously that did not work. That was a terrible way of living, because I never really truly knew myself. I just always tried to change to be what everyone else needed me to be in the moment. Secrets or hiding our true selves. That often comes in the form of masks, where we'll put masks on depending on who we're with. So if we're with people that we have to be outspoken with, we'll put that mask on. Or if we're with people that are, maybe even living an evil lifestyle where they like to cause harm to other people, we put on that mask. Depending on what situation we'll actually change who we are to match the circumstances that we're facing. One of the biggest ones for me, though, was the words of others. So many words that I defined myself by. And the problem with words when people speak them is they're often confirmed by what's happening in our life. So for example, if I was told that I would never amount to anything, and then everything I tried failed, then it just reaffirms those things in my life. Broken promises or shattered dreams. There's so many reasons why we struggle accepting ourselves, why we don't love ourselves. This is something I wrote, and I felt really prompted to put it here. Hello, there's someone very important I'd like you to meet. Let me introduce you to yourself. The one-of-a-kind, unique you. You may not know the person you're created to be. The real you is hiding behind the scenes. You've taken the words and opinions of others and adopted them as your own. You are not defined by what others think or say about you. You're more valuable than you know. You don't have to be ashamed of who you are. You've hidden your true self for a season, but you don't have to hide anymore. The world is waiting for the real you. You're not a mistake or here by chance, but for a very important purpose. It's time to introduce your unique self to the world. Come out of hiding so I can introduce you to yourself. So this part of my story is the start of the change. When I was 14 years old, I was so convinced that I was a piece of junk, that my life would never amount to anything. I had no hope for anything. And for months and months, I had thought of all these ways I could end my life. And I remember this day very, very vividly, even as it was yesterday. And it was at a school track meet, and I was ready to end it all. And through there was a bathroom at the end of the stadium, and I went there, and I was going to cut myself till I bled to death. And some girls came in the bathroom, and they just started laughing and joking. And they were talking about how awesome their lives were, and how they just loved, they loved going to the mall, and they loved wearing all these cute clothes, and all the boys that liked them, and they just kept going on and on and on, and they would not leave the bathroom. And so it felt like forever, but by the time they left, I had completely lost my nerve. And at that point, I heard over the loudspeaker that the buses were leaving the track tournament and were going back to the school. So at that point, I decided I was just going to go back home and figure this out another day. So anyways, as I'm on the bus, here I am absolutely desperate. I said a prayer to God, and I said, God, if you don't do something, I'm not going to live another day. So as the bus drove us back to school and I went home, we got home and my mom said, we're going to church. And typically we don't go to church in the middle of the week, but there was a special speaker coming. So we all got in the car, we went to church. And when we got there, I don't remember what the pastor was speaking about, but all I know is that he was speaking straight to me. Every word he was saying touched my heart so deeply. And at the end, he said, if you need a touch from God, come to the front. And so I quickly ran to the front, and I knelt at the altar, and I wept and I wept, and I asked God, I said, if you don't do something, I'm not going to live to see another day. And as I sat there bawling and crying and waiting for God to do something, I saw a picture form in my mind, and it was this mirror. And when I looked at the mirror, it was the absolute worst image I had ever seen. It was myself, but it looked just absolutely putrid. And I realized in that moment, like, that was everything that I believed about myself. Because at that point, I absolutely, truly hated myself. And so as I'm looking at this image, thinking like, why is God showing this to me? And just feeling the hopelessness of this image, I saw a hammer come and smash the mirror, and it shattered into hundreds of pieces on the floor. So in that moment, I was thinking, so if I'm not who I thought I was, who am I? Because now all the pieces were shattered on the ground, and I just felt like, who am I? I don't know who I am. If I'm not this hideous person and not worth anything, then who am I? And so in that moment, I started seeing all the glass pieces coming together again, and they came together, and then they formed a new mirror in front of me. And the new image that I saw was beautiful. And as I sat there staring at this new image, God just started to speak to me truth. He spoke to me how he loved me and he chose me. And he just kept speaking all these words of truth over me. And it was in that moment that my journey with God and my identity started. And you'll find in your journey that there'll be a defining moment when things will change for you. But that's just the beginning, because then you have to walk it out. And that was my journey. I had to walk it out. And so that was at the age of 15 that this happened, 14 or 15, around that age. And so that's when the work began. I had to then work on believing the truth, which I believe in some ways is the hardest part. So in Psalms 139, 13 to 14, it says, "For God created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. And so what I realized that day in that church service was that God created me and he knows everything about me. And not only did he create me, but he purposely created me. Everything about me is made with intention. And I realized in that moment that I am not defined by what others have said about me. And I can rest assured that God knows the best because he's the one who created me. The key to loving yourself is discovering who God created you to be. You are his creation. He does not make junk. This is another thing that my mom had put up a little poster on our fridge to try to help me remember my value. And it said, God does not make junk. And I saw that every single day. And every time I saw that sign, literally, I was like I couldn't believe it. Like, God doesn't make junk. I believe that's to be true, but I couldn't believe that I wasn't junk. And I've now come to know that that is true. But in those moments, like when you are in that, you have a hard time believing the truth. Your life has purpose. You're not here by mistake, and God planned you and he created you and he loves you. So how do I change what I believe about myself? This is the key. It's not an easy journey. It will take time, it will take effort, but it is possible. So we need to create new neural pathways. So when, for example, if someone were to tell me, for example, my brothers, they told me it felt like every day. I know it wasn't every day, but they told me very often, we hate you and we wish you were dead. So if that's the thought that I'm having consistently, it's going to create a neural pathway in my brain that those are the natural responses to certain things in my life. And the problem is that the more repeatedly you hear these things or believe these things, it creates a stronger bond and a stronger connection in the brain that's harder to break. So things that you think repeatedly create neural pathways in your brain. Over time, these neural pathways can get so ingrained that it's hard to change your thought pattern. You first need to break the connection in that neural pathway and create a new one. So the way that you break the connection in the neural pathway is by the way I did, and I know there's a few different methods, but the way I did was I had to come out of agreement with the lie. So each time I found out that I was believing a lie about myself, I had to come out of agreement with it and then replace it with the truth. And so by replacing it with the truth, I was actually establishing new neural pathways. So when I came to a specific situation where I would normally feel like worthless or feel like no one loved me or feel like my life had no purpose, it would be in those moments I would have to recognize that that was a lie and then replace it with the truth. And as I replace it with the truth and start believing the truth, it's going to create new neural pathways. And the more that I practice that and the more I do that, then it makes the other ones no longer ones that my mind will go to. Each time the old thoughts come, you need to reject it and replace it with the truth. So Leslie Burness is actually my dad. And many of you know my story. He was a very angry, very abusive man. And I prayed for him every single day of my life. And at the age of 19, I chose to leave home and I moved out on my own. And as I was out on my own, I really felt God prompted me to give my dad and my two brothers tickets to a men's conference. I can't remember the name right now. It's the biggest men's conference anyways. And anyways, I gave them tickets and they went. I was surprised that they went. But when they went, my dad actually had an incredible encounter with the Lord. And after that weekend, he called us kids to come home and he wanted to talk with us. And he sat us down and he told us what happened and repented for all of the years of absolute torment and pain that he put us through. And the difference in him was so incredible. He was just this different man. He was now like a little teddy bear. And shortly after that, these words he came and told me. He said, "Your life is like a canvas and your words are the paint. And what you put on your canvas will become your future." And I held on to these words because not only had my dad never loved us properly, but he was angry, he was violent, he was abusive. And I felt that these words were directly from God's heart to us as children. Me specifically, he spoke this to me. And so I've held this in my heart for many years and I've thought about it. And it's like, God has created us, but he's created us with the power of words, and our words matter. What we think, what we believe, and what we speak matter, especially what we think, believe, and speak over ourselves. And so I want you to picture yourself as this blank canvas. And what do you want your future to look like? My future, I want it to be beautiful and bright and with purpose and all of these wonderful things. And so these words, like I have the ability with my words to create my future. And so I want you just to think about what that would look like. If you could create your future with your words, what would that look like? Who would you be? What would you become? And I think that's a huge key, especially when you've come from a background where there's been so much abuse, so many things spoken over you that were negative. Maybe you were unwanted. Whatever your circumstance, I don't know what it is, but you can change your future. You can change the trajectory of your life. You can reverse what's happened to you, and you can partner with God and what he says about you. Oops. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is not. I obviously don't know how to use these buttons. Just 1 second. All right. Sorry about that. So 5 keys to remember. You are not defined by others. No matter what's happened in your life or what others have said about you, it does not define you. Even your failures, if you failed, none of those things define you. That's not who you are. That's not who God created you to be. Number 2, do not hide. You do not need to hide behind any mask. Don't change yourself to fit in. Don't hide behind a mask in hopes that others will love you. Be authentically yourself and others will love the true you. Number 3, God doesn't make junk. Everything God made was with intention and on purpose. God does not make mistakes, and he certainly does not make junk. Number 4, God created you perfectly. You are uniquely designed by God. He created you with purpose, and he knows you inside and out. If you're confused about who you are, ask God and he will show you who he created you to be. Number 5, love who God created you to be. It's time that you love yourself. So we're gonna do a little activation, and it's called redefining yourself. I'd like you to take just a minute or two and imagine everything that has defined you up to this moment. Imagine that it is written all over a whiteboard. And they could be things that others have spoken over you. They could be things that you've thought about yourself. They could be things that have happened to you even that made you feel that you can't be who you want to be, that have even hindered you. So I just want you to imagine all of those words, all of those statements, all of those failures on a whiteboard. Now imagine that you're taking a brush and you're going to erase it all. You're just taking that brush and you're just erasing every single one of those things. And now you have a clean slate. All the old things are gone. So the activation part is we're going to just spend 5 minutes here. I'm going to put on a worship song. And I just want you to ask God who you are, who he created you to be. And you might get pictures. You might have a sense. You might hear words. However God speaks to you, I want you to write down whatever comes to mind. So I'm just going to put on a worship song here, and you can just write these things down. Come, tear down the walls I built, every wall I built, every wall I built up. 'Cause you deserve every piece of my heart, every piece of my heart, every piece of my heart. Lord, I am trusting that you are a faithful Father, and all that you have is good. You're a generous giver, love's like no other. Would you come and break through to me over and over and over So I know that that might not have been easy for all of you. I know for myself, when God brought me through that process at the age of 14 or 15 and started to speak truth to my spirit, that was just the beginning for me. And for many years, I had to journey with him, and it was a slow process where I had to, every time one of those things popped up where I had to question myself, and I had to go to God and I had to say, is this true? Or what do you say about me in those moments? And there was a period of time in my life where so much came at me. I was around 30 years old, 29, 30 years old, and I really had a new crisis of faith, a new crisis of identity. And I had so many voices around me, voices that I trusted, voices that I believed had my best intentions at heart, but they were saying things about me that weren't true. But it started me re-questioning who I was. And that's the season of my life where I actually went through a mental breakdown. And in that season, I even had difficulty hearing from the heart of God, hearing what he had to say, believing what he had to say. And so through the help of my counselor, he encouraged me to identify 3 people in my life who I trusted, who I believed that what they would tell me would be the truth, and that I could write those things down and believe them. And so at the age of 30, I had to go through this process again. And so I asked those people, and I wrote everything that they said in this little black book. And I've had to carry this book with me for many years. And every time I had to be reminded of who I was, I would read these words. Words like honesty, kind, gentle, trustworthy, patient, servant, strong, compassionate, trustworthy. These were all things that I could not believe about myself in that season. Accepting, insightful, compassionate. And so if you found this activity difficult to do, you found it difficult to hear God's heart for you, that you found it difficult to dismiss, to erase those words off that whiteboard, then I encourage you to find those few people in your life, those people that you trust implicitly, that you know that they will tell you the truth, that they will tell you what they see, and go to them and share your heart with them and write down the things that they share with you, because that will be the start for you. That will be something that you can trust, something that you can count on, something that you can read, go back each day and read, and you read and meditate on until it becomes something that you can believe for yourself. So learning to love yourself is a journey. It will take time, it will take patience, and it will take practice. Write out all the things that God says about you, or what your trusted people say about you. Meditate on what is true. What you focus on will become what you believe about yourself. Meditate on the truth. And share this with a trusted friend. Another thing I found in my life is that accountability is the most important key to being successful. Having someone in your life that you trust, someone in your life that you can confide in, that you can share where you're at, what your struggles are, someone to call you regularly, to check in on you, to make sure you're doing okay. that is so important for growth. That is so important for not getting stuck and not being not being able to move forward. So I don't know who that person would be for you, but I encourage you to find someone who can hold you accountable, who can challenge you, who can encourage you, who can continually speak truth over you so that you can believe who God created you to be. Philippians 4:8-9. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is admirable, if anything excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you have learned or heard from me or seen me put into practice, and the peace of God will be with you. And that's what I found. I found the more I can meditate on the truth, the more I meditate on God's word, the more I meditate on the things that God speaks into my life, and I replace those lies with the truth, then I do live in a place of peace with God and with myself. And so that's my encouragement. That's my prayer for you, that as you journey with God in this area of loving yourself, truly accepting yourself, and truly knowing who you are in Christ, that you would be able to know the depth of his love for you, and that it would become something real for you, something that you believe yourself, and that you can live it out. And the more you can do that, the more you can meditate on those things, the more it will create those neuron pathways in your brain, and it will become your new normal. It will become what is your default, and then you can live in that life of peace. So that's all I had to share on this subject today. Before I stop sharing my screen and open it up for discussion and sharing, I just wanted to quickly mention that next month we will be doing our next webinar on March 3rd. It's called Seeds of Hope, and it will be addressing anxiety. So if you know anyone who struggles with anxiety, whether it be anxiety, like just basic day-to-day anxiety, or something more prevalent, something that keeps them from living life fully, or even something that, you know that the kind of anxiety where even if it comes up in a moment and you deal with it and you push it off to the side, there's still things that can be shared that you can learn from. So if you know anyone struggling with anxiety, let them know that we'll be doing this next month, March 3rd. We try to do it the first Thursday of every month from 7 to 9. And I'd love to see you there.